Before we begin today's story, take a moment to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy emotionally driven stories that stay with you long after the video ends. These stories aren't loud or rushed, they quietly settle into your heart. I still remember that night. The house was quiet, and I was sitting in the living room watching TV when my sister's voice suddenly echoed through the hallway. "Luke, where are you? Can you help me?" There was urgency in her tone, so I quickly stood up. "What happened?" I asked. Her voice came from the bathroom, slightly embarrassed this time. "I forgot my clothes. Can you bring them from my room?" It wasn't the first time. My sister Nora had always been a bit forgetful. I didn't think much of it and went upstairs, grabbed her clothes, and brought them back. When I knocked, she opened the door just a little and reached out to take them. It all happened in a second, but something about that moment felt awkward. I immediately looked away, feeling like I had accidentally crossed a boundary. That night, something inside me changed, not in the way you might think, but in a confusing, uncomfortable way. I felt embarrassed for even thinking about that moment again. Nora was the same as always, cheerful, kind, completely normal. She laughed, joked, and treated me just like she always had. But I found myself becoming distant, unsure how to act. I started avoiding eye contact, overthinking small interactions, and questioning my own thoughts. It wasn't about her, it was about me trying to understand why that moment had stuck in my mind. Days passed and I struggled silently. I didn't want anything to ruin the bond we had as siblings. One day, she asked me to go to the market with her. I agreed, trying to act normal. But when I walked into the room, she suddenly laughed. "Luke, maybe go change first," she said, trying to hold back her laughter. Confused, I went back to my room and realized I had dressed carelessly. I laughed at myself, feeling a mix of embarrassment and relief. At that moment, I understood something important. Sometimes our minds create confusion out of small accidental moments, but what truly matters is how we handle them with maturity, respect, and control. That day, I decided to let go of those strange thoughts and focus on what truly mattered: my family, my respect for them, and being the person I wanted to be. Because not every confusing feeling defines who you are, but how you deal with it does. After that awkward moment, I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. Every little thing she did seemed to get stuck in my mind. Her laughter, her gestures, even the way she asked me to help with small tasks around the house. I tried my best to act normal, but it was hard. I avoided looking at her too long and kept my conversations brief. I didn't want her to notice how flustered I was. One afternoon, she called me to help her in the kitchen. My heart was racing before I even walked in. I told myself to calm down, to act like nothing had happened. When I reached her, she smiled warmly, completely unaware of the storm inside me. That simple smile made me realize something important. These confusing feelings weren't about her, they were about my own mind overthinking the situation. I took a deep breath and started helping her. I chopped vegetables, washed the dishes, and even joked a little to bring back the usual atmosphere between us. Slowly, I started feeling a little better. That day, I learned that awkward moments happen, but they don't define who you are or your relationship with your family. Sometimes the best thing to do is acknowledge your feelings, stay respectful, and move on. The next few days felt strange. I kept replaying that awkward moment in my head, and every time I did, I felt a mix of embarrassment and confusion. I knew it wasn't her fault, but my mind just wouldn't let go. One evening, she asked me to sit with her in the living room. I hesitated at first, worried I might overthink everything again, but I decided to face it instead of running away. We started talking about small things: school, friends, and our favorite TV shows. Her laughter, as always, was calming. Slowly, I realized that our bond was stronger than one uncomfortable moment. It wasn't about the mistake, it was about how we moved forward. Later that night, I reflected on everything. I understood that sometimes our brains make ordinary situations feel bigger than they are. The feelings of awkwardness and confusion weren't dangerous, they were a sign that I needed to process my emotions. By the end of the day, I felt lighter. I promised myself to be more aware of my thoughts and to always treat my sister and every family member with respect and care. This experience taught me that awkward moments happen to everyone, but it's how we handle them with maturity and honesty. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of relief. The awkward moment from before didn't feel as heavy anymore. I realized that everyone experiences uncomfortable situations, but it's how we handle them that shapes our character. When I saw my sister later, I noticed her cheerful smile, completely unaware of my inner struggle. I laughed at myself quietly, thinking about how much my imagination had blown things out of proportion. That day, I made a promise to myself to focus on respect and understanding in every relationship, to stay calm in awkward situations and not let confusion control my emotions, to value family moments and cherish the bond one has with my sister. Sometimes life teaches us lessons in strange ways. That one awkward moment reminded me that maturity is choosing how we react, not letting our mind spiral into confusion or guilt. By the end of the day, everything felt normal again. We cooked together, joked, and shared stories just like before. And in that ordinary, peaceful moment, I felt grateful for family laughter and the lessons life quietly gives us. Sometimes the most important story isn't about the mistake, it's about how you grow from it. A few days later, I found myself thinking back on the whole experience again, but this time differently. I realized that awkward moments don't define relationships, understanding and patience do. I also learned something important about myself. It's okay to feel confused or embarrassed, but it's how we handle those feelings that really matters. I started being more mindful, more aware of my reactions, and more appreciative of the simple moments with my sister. Focusing on respect, empathy, and patience, I noticed our relationship becoming stronger and more natural. We laughed more, shared small stories, and helped each other without overthinking anything. Looking back, that awkward incident was not a mistake. It was a lesson in maturity, self-control, and emotional awareness. It reminded me that life often tests us in small ways, but the lessons we take from those moments shape the kind of person we become. And most importantly, I understood that family bonds are about trust, respect, and love, not embarrassment or fleeting confusion. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if this story touched your heart. Stay tuned for more real-life emotional stories that stay with you long after the video ends.